Welcome back to the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset podcast with me, Johnny Pardo. On today's show, I have a guest with me. So welcome, Jamie.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you here. So me and Jamie have been talking a while that we wanted to do an episode together. So I'm really pleased that Jamie's able to join us today. And today we're going to be talking about aligning with your purpose. So just a quick introduction to Jamie, and then we can go into more of her story. So Jamie is a purpose mentor and podcast host of the popular podcast, Align with Purpose and Life in Leadership. So Jamie, tell us a little bit more about what you do and what got you into this area.
Thank you once again. I'm so excited to dive in here. So I'm a business coach, and really, I never thought this was going to be what I ended up doing at all. If you would have told me this even 5 years ago, I would have thought that you were crazy, truthfully. But somewhere along the journey just of life, I realized that I had no freaking clue what I wanted to do. But what happened because of that is I started like a bunch of random odd jobs and just things that didn't light me up. And quite frankly, it wasn't fulfilling. And so I realized that I spent a lot of my time trying to numb the pain, truthfully, of what my life was, because I wasn't clear on who I was supposed to be and what I was supposed to do. And so I am sitting where I am today, yes, as a business coach, where I help people step into their power and who they're becoming on the journey. But it's only because I went through all of this inner work and self-discovery to truly figure out how to do that. And so I'm excited to dive into more of what that looks like, but it's been a journey.
Awesome. Yeah, using your own experience of kind of trying to find that fulfillment, which perhaps you didn't feel earlier in life. And now you're helping people transform themselves and actually getting something that lights them up a little bit more. So yeah, fantastic. I've definitely been there as well and can relate when being in jobs which you don't enjoy and you're just living for the weekend almost. So I'm sure you come across many people like that as well in your time in coaching. So looking forward to diving in. So my first kind of question, if someone is kind of really struggling for what they want to do, if they're at that point of what do I do? Like, obviously that's great to have in a coaching conversation and kind of really work with a one-to-one coach in that setting. But would you have any kind of starting points for any individual who's perhaps a bit lost at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember when I was sitting in that position and I literally Googled how to combine your skills, passions, and expertise to build a business that you love, because I knew on my journey it would involve entrepreneurship. So if you're listening to this, maybe that thought has crossed your mind too. But I would just recommend that rather than starting to just look outwardly and try to find the answer somewhere on the internet or from someone, it's looking within. Like, truly, what do you love to do each day? And how can you do more of it? It's not getting hung up on the how you're going to make money, how it's all going to work, what your family is going to think, what your spouse is going to think. It's what do you want? And what are you doing right now that's not serving you on that path? Because if you're doing something that's more draining your energy, that's going to show up. And it's actually going to prevent you from taking the action that you need to in order to fully find your purpose. So in simplest terms, you got to kind of stop trying to find it and just focus on what you truly want out of your life.
And sometimes that takes a bit of time out of your day or out of your week to kind of reflect on that. You kind of just reminded me of something Tony Robbins said on one of his programs, Time of Your Life. And most of us are saying, what do we have to do? What do we have to do, right? And instead of saying, what do I want? So I think that's what in line with what you're saying, but that's not sometimes a question we can answer on the spot or one off. Well, more often than not, it's not. So I like that about actually finding that time. and reflecting on it. So in terms of people actually finding the time, I mean, is that something you encourage your, the people you work with to find that regular reflection time in their week?
Oh, absolutely. I think it should be a part of everyone's daily routine. And it's really less finding time, but more looking at the activities you're doing, kind of like what we touched on, and asking yourself, like, what's not serving you. So, like, just to be transparent, like a habit that we got into when we were watching like Netflix every single night for like, I don't know, a show or two, but that's still maybe 2 hours of your night. If you think about how that adds up over the course of a week, over the course of a month, and I'm not saying you've got to eliminate it completely, but it's how do you find time in your day with items that aren't very productive and just flip them for something that would actually be more growth oriented, that's going to put you more on the path to figuring out what that purpose would be, giving yourself that space to fully become who you're meant to be. So it's finding it. It exists. We all have the same 24 hours in the day. It's just how you choose to use it.
Very true. And yeah, I like that you brought that up, because we live in an age where everybody seems to be busy, right? And I have this belief that everyone's in the world is always busy. It just depends what busy you're doing. You could be busy watching Netflix, but you could be busy building, 6, 7, 8-figure business. You could be busy with your kids, which obviously, I think, if parents out there, that's obviously going to be a priority. So, but then it's kind of looking for that time which you've already got, but maybe just even those little snippets within the day, that perhaps there's things like Netflix where, and there's nothing wrong with Netflix, of course, if you want to watch it now and then, but it just asking that growth question. So I really like what you said there. It's available. It's just a case of being smart about it. So really
And
good.
Yeah. And one thing that's kind of coming through right now too, that's like so simple, but also profound, is like, think less about giving something 100% of your time and ask yourself how you can give that task 100% of your energy. Right. And it goes back to like Parkinson's law of, if you give something like 5 hours of your time, but it technically would only require 2, it's going to take up all 5 hours. So it's really structuring yourself and giving 100% of your energy, not 100% of your time.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. I've not heard anyone kind of put that across, but that's a really, really good point. And you're right. It comes back to like when you've got a deadline or something, we've like, maybe you think back to school, university, college or whatever. And it's like that deadline for that paper, and you get it done in the overnight or whatever, been there. And then when you've had like 5 weeks, so it's, putting your energy into it. Not that we're recommending doing things last minute, but we're talking more about the focus of your energy. So really like that. So my next kind of thought really was, say someone's a bit more on the path, they've understood perhaps what they'd like to do a little bit more, but perhaps they're in a situation right now, perhaps in a job maybe, that they're not massively fond of, but that's their current reality existent. It's not going to be forever, but that's their current existence where they are at the moment. What would you say to someone about bringing more enjoyment and energy to their current situation now?
And so just to get some clarity, so they want to remain in that job, or they want to eventually create an exit plan and leave it?
Yes. So what you said there about they want to leave that job and create an exit plan, or perhaps just a general situation they're not happy in, but they know what they want going forward.
Yeah, well, a lot of times it comes back to like blocks that the ego is creating to keep you in your comfort zone, which right now, if you're in a job that you've been in for 5-10 years, you're comfortable there. And that's totally understandable because it's all you've really known for a long time. And so anything that's outside of that, like going down this unknown path towards your purpose, is scary. So there's a lot of fear that starts to creep in, right? This is where ultimately, am I good enough? Your limiting beliefs start creeping. You ask yourself, like, who would listen to me? What will my family think? It's all of these things that start to stack on top of each other. And it's the ego working to keep you exactly where you are today. And so it's noticing that, it's realizing that the fear is there. And then it's whether or not you're going to overcome that fear, realizing that that's just a projection that you're putting on a future that doesn't even exist, that you can choose to do whatever you want to do today. It's just getting the heck out of your own way is ultimately what it comes down to.
Yeah, and it's very simple what you're saying here. It's just it's going to be it's not like easy at the moment, and but it's choosing your hard. Are you going to stay in that hard where you're not enjoying life and going on for that way, or are you going to take those little acts of courage to overcome that temporary discomfort? So like you say, it's pretty simple. It's just you got to push out the comfort zone, but and it is easier said than done, but yeah, so's anything. That's life. So yeah, I like what you said about being simple.
If something inside of you and you're in this position is like pulling you towards something else and is like, you're called to do something more, you're called to be something more, you're meant to follow that call. And look, if it doesn't work out, you can pivot, you can do something different. It's not like the whole world's going to come crashing down, right? It's just, how horrible would it feel if you maintained the position that you're in right now and you didn't make a change and you stayed there for another 5 years or another 10 years because it was comfortable? And then you looked back and said, fuck, I missed it. Like I missed the opportunity to truly at least try to go after my dreams. And so I would say right now, it's up to you to figure out what could be holding you back. Like, what is the wall that has been built that's keeping you on the inside of it? And how can you tear that sucker down?
I like that. And also like what you said about maybe looking, what would it look like in 5 years' time, for example, because often we're seeing the pain right now and we're not seeing that future pain. I remember doing a Dickens process on it if I don't know, not all listeners are sort of like familiar, or not everyone's familiar with the Dickens process, but it's a process where you go through your past, present, and future pain of holding yourself back and actually think, what are all these limiting beliefs, all these blockers I'm putting in front of myself costing me ultimately? And then when you can see it's more painful than actually that, coming out of the comfort zone or pushing through something that's holding you back, it gives a bit more leverage as well. So I like what you touched on about that 5 year. What would it look like in 5 years? Which I think were your words there. So
yeah, I mean, ultimately, the one thing that will spark a change is by the future pain being more strong than the pain that you're in right now. Or I guess the projected future pain.
Combined with the pleasure you could potentially get. So from actually going after it. But
yeah,
as entrepreneur, the next kind of thing I wanted to cover, which kind of links to that, is what we've been touching on a bit already, is this, you said maybe it doesn't work out, maybe it does, but if you stay where you are, it's obviously going to be the same. And there's a level of uncertainty, obviously, with that. But my belief is life's uncertain. There's nothing certain in life apart from the certainty you can have in backing yourself. So what's kind of your views on that? Do you feel like uncertainties a lot of people struggle to, work with?
Definitely. I mean, but that, I would say that's one thing that I don't feel like I ever had, is uncertainty in myself and what I was working towards. I would say I've been super driven and committed, but I feel like that's the difference between someone who is so dedicated to the path and what they're doing and the vision that they have versus someone who maybe wouldn't find success there. It's because they're allowing maybe even the uncertainty of others to affect how they show up and what they take action on. But yeah, I feel like uncertainty, it's huge, especially in the world like that we live in right now. But ultimately it comes down to just the drive and the vision to what you're doing and just trusting that everything's going to work out. It's all happening for you. Even if it feels hard, there's a lesson in every single moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. Life's happening for you. Love that. Love that phrase. So
Mm.
we get often people I've worked with and feedback I've had from the show is a lot around overthinking. And I'm sure it's something maybe you faced in yourself, or maybe you've worked with other people in the past.
Mhm.
So, in terms of overthinkers, do you feel like that's something that holds people back a lot? And what kind of guidance? Obviously, an obvious question, but what kind of guidance would you give an overthinker?
I mean, really, that's someone getting trapped in their head. And I'll share a bit of a personal story with my own kind of version of overthinking is when I first started down this path of entrepreneurship, when I knew I wanted to start building up myself and becoming who I needed to be to show up, I was running to YouTube. I was, like I said, running to Google, and I was trying to learn and be a sponge from everyone. And then I started kind of emulating what I saw the most successful people in the industry doing and like emulating that for myself and my business. And for the longest time, like nothing was working at all. And it was the most frustrating thing that I could imagine. And I just feel like ultimately it's because I wasn't figuring it out for myself, truthfully. And so it comes down to, yes, becoming who you're meant to be on the journey. And but it's also, if you're overthinking right now, it's take a step back. Stop trying to find the answers from external sources. Like, yes, do you need a strategy to follow that works? Yes, you do. Absolutely. And do you need to work on you and your mindset? Yes. But it's not consuming too much. And I think if we look at what overthinking truly is, I feel like it's not giving yourself action, like giving yourself permission to take action on what's needed, because the wheels are continuously spinning and more stuff is being added to the place. And you're thinking about how to connect the dots and how to do it. Just put one foot in front of the other and just do it. Because the more space, the more you can declutter the overthinking mind. Meditation is great for this. The more the answers are just going to start to come to you of how to piece together everything that had been stressing you out. And I know this because I've been there. I had the mind that wouldn't shut off. I couldn't shut off work when I was at the beach with my family. And when we were on evening sunset walks, all I was thinking about is, what is that missing piece to this massive puzzle? How do I piece it all together? And I just would think about it all day long. And the moment that I just said, let it be, is when everything changed. So I know that's hard to hear, but it's exactly what's needed.
Comes back to a little bit more of the self-trust, doesn't it, as well?
Mhm.
And that
Yeah.
kind of trusting that kind of the sort of like inner guidance a little bit more than looking left, right, and center. And yeah, you can obviously look at what other people are doing, but you know what works for one person might not work for you and stuff like that. And it's, you know, we can learn, and success does leave clues in some areas, but it's ultimately finding what works for you. I mean, I found my space in podcasting. Some people find their space in, you know, YouTube. But then, you know, you can model people, but it's ultimately finding what's good. So I'm glad you were able to overcome that, and now you're kind of guiding people. But ultimately, I think there's a bit of like this, people don't like to make mistakes as well. Is that kind of something that you've come across?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And that would make sense to why the wheels keep turning in the mind. And then it's also how, or a question I get all the time is like, where do I even start? Like, it's interesting. I get in so many calls and people feel like they lack clarity, but then they lay out the vision for their life that they want so perfectly and beautifully. You can tell they know exactly what they want. They have clarity on what that is. It's just they don't know how the hell to get there. They're like, but how? Where do I start? What do I do first? And it's like, that's where the strategy piece comes into play, where someone can say, first you do this, second you do this, and just lay it out for you. It's not because you couldn't figure it out on your own, because you could. It's just someone to tell you, just do this, then just do this. do this next. And it's just simplifies things and it pulls you out of your head.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a lot more self-trust needed in this world. So
Yes.
it's definitely good. We've got people like yourself in there helping people with that. So it's amazing. So one other thing is, obviously there's so much information out there, isn't there? That they can paralyze us as well. So that's obviously a bit of a blocker as well. And I've definitely been caught up in that myself. Do this, do that, all these different strategies. So Jamie, just, last few questions, but one thing I'm very keen about kind of talking to people about is the power of investing in yourself, in order to not only better your life, but better the lives of people around you and actually people further that you can be serving. So what's your kind of take on investing in yourself? I know I've seen some recent posts from you around this, but I just wanted to kind of you to perhaps share one or two thoughts around what you believe about investing in yourself.
Yeah, thank you. This is such a powerful question. And I feel like there's a journey to be taken, right? You might go from the person who wants to DIY everything and consume all the free information that's on the internet, right? And that was kind of where I started. And then it pivoted to, now let's buy everything, looking for the golden ticket that actually freaking works.
Yeah.
To then finding the right people who can guide you. And now I don't blink an eye. If I know someone has the results that I want, I'm never going to try to figure it out on my own. I'm just like, all right, I'm going to pay you. I'm going to cut a check to move faster. So like I have no idea where I would be today if I didn't make a scary investment in myself. I remember putting $15,000 on a credit card for 5 hours with a mentor, which was so scary at the time, but it felt like the only thing that I could do. And so it's like, think about the return on time. If time is important to you, then just realize that there's someone out there that has the exact results that you want with the exact business. They're living a purpose similar to what your vision looks like. And they can save you years, if not tens of thousands of dollars. Just pay them. Just pay them and be like, show me what you do. Show me how to do it. That's all. That's all it is. It'll save you a lot of time and a lot of heartache if you do that.
And yeah, you can't get time back, right? But you can get money back.
Yes.
Exactly.
And money, if you think about what money actually is, it's an exchange of energy.
Yeah.
I mean, truly. So it's like, if you could invest in someone at a level that's kind of uncomfortable for you, imagine how you're going to show up to those calls, to the trainings, because it's a bit scary for you. You're going to push yourself to make that money back. Right. Whereas if you're consuming information for free, it's like, yeah, you're just not as like committed at that type of level. So there's a lot to be said about investing in yourself.
Definitely. It's also, and I don't know if you felt this, but I felt this better relationship with myself in a way that it's like, Johnny, you're worth it. I'm going to invest in you.
Ooh, yes.
Is that something you felt as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then it's like, the more you invest in you, the more you build up yourself as an asset to help others and to help your clients. Yeah. I mean, you're the best investment that you can make. And my fiance and I talked about this literally last night. So this is so timely. And I honestly said, what if the money I spent, instead of spending it on me and investing in myself, what if I would have spent it before I did physical products and I sold on Amazon? What if I would have invested all those tens of thousands of dollars on Amazon products that were now sitting in our garage, because I realized that wasn't my passion. That wasn't my purpose. I easily could have. I was right there on the edge of, this is working. We're making money doing this. Should I spend the rest of the money and do more of it? And I decided to shut the doors on that and invest it all in me. And that was the best decision I ever made.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your experience on that. I'm always very passionate on that thing, because I like people to see how valuable, it's not just for them, but the other people around them by, becoming that leveling that person as well. It's always going to be scary, right? But, it's,
Yeah.
it could be scarier to get to the end of your life and, regret. So thank you for sharing that. So Jamie, it's been an amazing lot of value you provided us today. Are there any final points that you would like to share that perhaps I've not covered?
I would say if something is stopping you, just try to really, and then we kind of touched on this before, but try to really gain clarity around what that could possibly be. And if you find yourself spinning your wheels or getting stuck on the how, just go out there, search. We have the world at our fingertips. Search and find someone with what you're trying to build, with your vision, that's their reality. And just learn from them. That is the best advice that I can give you for moving forward.
Awesome. Love it. Yeah, it doesn't have to be as complicated as we make it in our heads. So yeah, awesome, Jamie. So you've given a ton of value, as I know you would. I know you continually deliver this on your own podcast and your social media platform. So appreciate you a lot. Where can people find you if they'd like to find out more about your work?
Yeah, definitely my podcast, Aligned with Purpose in Life and Leadership. So you can find me there. I'm over on Instagram, Coach with Jamie, or on LinkedIn, Jamie Kullman, JamieKullman.
Brilliant. And we'll be sure to link those in the description as well, so people can reach you easier that way. So once again, Jamie, a massive thank you for coming on the show today and sharing such knowledge with us. So thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. So that concludes our episode for today. But remember, work on your self-confidence every single day.